Science and technology, conceptual and empirical, evidence, proof, and facts are not part of the rational scientific method of inquiry because they are dependent upon the limited sensory system of man and are therefore considered opinion. We reserve our opinions for after the hypothesis and theory is presented, and it is called the conclusion. What is technology? Technology is empirical, evidence-based, and mostly trial and error. We see the phrase science and technology. The difference is often debated in academia. A general consensus might be that science and technology are interdependent but separate endeavors. Dictionary.reference.com says, science is a branch of knowledge or study dealing with a body of facts or truths, and systematic knowledge of the physical or material world gained through observation and experimentation. Knowledge, facts, and truth are the opinions of man, and as such have no place in science or technology. That is part of religion and philosophy. Religion claims knowledge and truth. Facts are opinions from authority. Science explains, technology builds. Observation and experimentation are not part of science. They belong to technology. If science and technology are interdependent yet separate, there should be a friendly relationship and a clear division of labor between the two. Yet, this is not the case. Agencies like NASA have science and technology departments just to help solve related issues and coordinate resources and development across the disciplinary boundaries. As an electrical engineer and later a software and then hardware engineer, it was obvious to me who did the work and who got the credit. WikiAnswers says, science discovers fundamental information about how the universe works. Technology is the practical application of that information or knowledge. We've been told that if not for quantum mechanics, the transistor would not have been invented. If not for relativity, GPS would not have been possible, and so forth. This is not the case, as we shall see. Many great discoveries had nothing to do with the science behind it. Louis Pasteur said, chance favors the prepared mind. Are we to believe that serendipity is part of the scientific method? Professor, what are some examples of technology that came about by accident? Charles Goodyear accidentally spilled a mixture of rubber, sulfur, and lead onto a hot stove, creating vulcanized rubber. Engineer Wilson Greatbatch used the wrong value resistor, and the circuit he was working on pulsed like a heartbeat, giving him the idea for the pacemaker. Alfred Nobel accidentally discovered dynamite when he dropped nitroglycerin in sawdust. The sawdust soaked it up, stabilizing it and making it useful as dynamite. Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin a day after failing to clean up his workstation. Benedictus dropped a flask that had contained a liquid plastic that had evaporated. The flask didn't shatter, and safety glass was the result. While trying to make artificial quinine, Perkins made the first synthetic dye superior to any of the natural dyes that were available at the time. Potato chips were an accident, as were popsicles, ice cream cones, and Coca-Cola. Silicone chips, also known as smart dust, used for sensors, was an accident as well. Saccharin was discovered because a chemist didn't wash his hands, and chemicals got on his wife's dinner rolls. Percy Spencer was using a vacuum tube and aimed it at various items in the lab and accidentally melted a chocolate bar in his pocket. That was the beginning of the first microwave oven. Wilhelm Röntgen was tinkering with a device when he noticed the fluorescent light flickering. He started putting various objects in front of it and discovered he could see the bones of his hands. The X-ray machine had its beginning. Later, When experimenting with X-rays, Becquerel accidentally exposed a photographic plate with a uranium rock and then, with the help of the Curies, discovered radioactivity. Chemist Baekeland, trying to make a shellac alternative, produced a material in one of his experiments called bakelite. He was going to use it to make phonograph records, but found it could be used for many other things. Plastic is derived from it today. Pfizer discovered that a drug they were using in a clinical trial for heart conditions, although useless for that purpose, was great for erectile dysfunction. Viagra was born. Smallpox vaccination, clinical use of insulin for diabetes, and the pap smear, all a result of serendipity, as were Post-it notes, cellophane, and Velcro. So were Play-Doh, stainless steel, the inkjet printer, and Vaseline, all a result of serendipity. Thank God for open minds, and thank God for Viagra and Vaseline. While these are all good examples of accidents, luck, and happenstance meeting up with open-minded, observant men and women, it points to something very important. It points to the difference between science and technology, conceptualizing and observing. The Free Dictionary defines empirical as relying on or derived from observation or experiment, empirical results that supported the hypothesis. The second definition is revealing, guided by practical experience and not theory, especially in medicine. Does science depend on accidents, happenstance, or serendipity? Does empiricism depend on theory? No. Rational science sees empiricism as extra-scientific. That is, it is not part of the rational scientific method of inquiry. Why? Because the human sensory system is limited, but the ability to conceive is not. It is technology with its observation, experimentation, and its trial and error that is responsible for our so-called scientific advancements. Science played a very minor role. The mathematical theorist, for instance, may believe that their calculations confirm and GPS proves relativity. They therefore take credit for the GPS system. The calculus only confirms that cesium atoms are being stressed differently than the cesium atoms in the clocks at the ground stations as the satellite orbits the Earth. The atoms were stressed. Time was not warped, as proposed by the ridiculous theory of relativity. The transistor was discovered in Bell Labs by engineers tinkering with components, and not because of some theory or theories relating to the ridiculous notion of quantum mechanics. The purpose of science is to explain, and that depends on conceptualization. The usefulness of technology is in designing and building. This is accomplished by experimentation, testing, and trial and error, which depend on observation. Clearly, science and technology are two different things altogether. The problem with the modern scientific method is that they confuse the two. Scientists today confuse nouns with verbs, concepts with objects, hypothesis with theory, and science with technology.